October is deemed Breast Cancer Awareness Month. 1 out of every 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. But 1 out of every 2,100 African American women by the age of 30 will be diagnosed with breast cancer. Men, that doesn't leave you out. 1 out of every 100 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer. But men, that doesn't mean you don't play a role in breast cancer awareness or breast cancer with your partner in any way. My name is Glennis Armstrong, and not only am I a cancer survivor, but I'm a cancer thriver for 3 years and a lifetime to go. I am on Hidden Parts, the podcast, and I'd like to welcome you.
Welcome, Glennis. I am so happy to have you here with us today.
It's good to be here.
Well, I love to see your beautiful smile.
Thank you.
Don't be nervous. We're just going to sit here and chat.
That's fine. I talk all day.
Okay. I wanted you to come because, I've known you since a little thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a story that's really impactful. And you could share it with people and they would grow from it and learn. So I thank you for agreeing to come.
No problem.
So what you doing? What you up to, girl?
Well, as of recent, I am now a special education teacher in Baltimore County Public Schools. All of my children are autistic, but I'm also still wholeheartedly a social worker. So I have not left my love of social work, but special education definitely has a strong place in my heart right now. So that's what I'm doing. I have a business in the works. I kind of put it off for like a year because I got scared, kind of talked myself out of it. But now, I think now is the time to really get it off the ground and stop being scared and really just go for it. What else do I have going on? Oh, how can I forget? With my business, I have been writing. I've been writing for years, but since this whole journey has happened, I've been writing particularly to that. But then it also kind of birthed some different ideas, some new thoughts. So I do have a book I am putting together. Hopefully, keep our fingers crossed, I will debut it in spring of 2024.
Awesome. So I just get joy in hearing all of that because that's the triumphant part. But there was a piece before that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk to me about it?
Sure. So March, actually it started in February of 2020. So right when we are at the beginning of the pandemic, I found my own lump. I didn't go and have a mammogram because medically they say I'm too young. You have to be 40 in order to even be considered to even get a mammogram, which I personally think is absolutely asinine because how? Why? Why is there a number? When a woman, I feel like when a young lady goes and has her cycle, that's the beginning stages of when you should be genetic testing and just checking for things I would rather be proactive than reactive. And unfortunately, I had to be reactive. Like I said, I found my own lump, not because I was searching for it, not because I was looking for it. I woke up on February 17th and just kind of brushed my arm against my breast and was like, wait a minute, what is that?
So you were how old then?
I literally was 3 months into being 30. And I just because my children were home, I didn't want to panic because I didn't want to send them to school and to daycare like that. So I remember it like yesterday. I called my mother at least 7 times, talked to her, and she's like, Glennis, just calm down. Because I was losing it in the house, but silently, because I, again, never wanted my kids to even hear me. And a really close friend of mine who is also a breast cancer survivor, Rochelle, we had just celebrated her finishing her chemotherapy like 2 weeks prior to. I called her, and she just said, Glennis, get to the house. I dropped my kids off. I went straight to her and immediately went to my doctor. My doctor was like, Glennis, just come on in. You don't need an appointment, just come. I'll never forget. And I don't even fault my doctor because I don't think she was malicious in her response, but her response was a very real response because she was just as shocked as I was when she felt my breast. And mind you, my anxiety is already on 1,000. She felt my breast. Her initial reaction was, I felt like the room stopped because it signified she also felt what I felt. And I wasn't dreaming. This was like real. This was in real time, literally my reality. And again, because I was only 30, you don't go through the same process. I still had to go to advanced radiology, and I had to wait. I waited 2 days. 2 days from the time we initially found my lump because I had to get a referral. Got the referral. I went. Before doing a biopsy, they have to do an ultrasound. Excuse me. And the ultrasound is to confirm the fact that your doctors gave you a referral. I feel like, why are we spending so much time to just confirm if my doctor sent the referral and is requesting that I have a biopsy? I felt like we were just wasting time at this point. I waited, went, got the biopsy, and then literally a week later on February 25th, I was officially diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. Even to this day, it's still very sensitive for me to even acknowledge because I'm still kind of like, parts of me is still in awe that this is something that I have. This is something that I can say that I was diagnosed with because never would I've ever imagined to say, oh, I have breast cancer. But like I tell people all the time, don't say you're sorry because it's not like you gave it to me. It's nothing to be sorry for. Now, for me, I really looked at this as a blessing in disguise because I was, like I said, I was just 3 months into being 30. I was in the last semester of my junior year, getting ready to enter into my senior year of college. And then not only that, but we're also now in the beginning and the height of a pandemic. COVID is now running rampant throughout the United States. And this is also at a time where everything literally was shutting down. So people's surgeries got canceled, pushed, all of that. But because my cancer was very aggressive, they had to treat it aggressively. Had I not found that lump when I did, I was borderline stage 3.
Wow.
And I would have, again, never would have known. I didn't have any of the common symptoms of like breast tenderness or nipple discharge or any pain. I literally had none of that. And had I not found it, just unbeknownst to myself, I would have never known until something major probably would have happened. But even throughout all of that, because my cancer was aggressive, I had to go and start chemo literally a month later.
Wow. So you did have your annual OBGYN appointments where they would do the exam and nothing. It just presented, seems like overnight.
Yep. It was almost like you had to really, really feel it. Like you really had to feel my breast in order to feel it. When I found it, at this point, it was now at the forefront. It's almost like when a pimple comes to head. Now you feel it, but you don't know that it's forming. And that's how it was for me. It was forming, and I never knew until it had officially like came to head. Now you feel it. So now it was like, and it was the size of a golf ball. But when I felt it, it didn't feel like that.
What did it feel like?
It felt like almost like a bean, like a small bean. But when they did the biopsy and I saw the actual picture, it was my doctor at the time told me that was the size of a golf ball, and I would have never known.
Wow.
It's still shocking, like, huh? Like, sometimes it's a little difficult to kind of wrap my head around, but again, I still look at this situation as a blessing in disguise, because if people really knew my backstory, like what it took to get me to go to college at 27, and I went to college in 2017. You think I'm gonna let cancer stop me from getting a degree? Please. I laugh at it because people would have quit.
Yep.
People would have given up and like, you know what, I ain't gonna be able to do it. No, that was more fuel for me to keep going. Was it difficult? Absolutely. Because I went through chemo by myself. Again, we're in like the beginning stages of the pandemic where everything is shutting down. My mother was only able to come to my very first appointment, and that's only because that was the very first one. But the 6 I had after that, I had to be by myself. So like I literally was lugging my breast cancer blanket, my laptop, and my books, and I was still logging into class, still conducting meetings and being a part of meetings. I was a part of everything imaginable at Morgan State University. Shout out to us Bears. But people in my cancer center were like, I mean, people used to clap, people used to like how we all were. It wasn't like we were secluded from each other. I could see them, they could see me. I was probably, if not the youngest, probably one of the youngest at that time during my chemo treatments. And they were literally still pushing for me. Oh, you got it, you're doing good. And I'm like, I don't see how. I just don't see how, like, you still have positive spirits and you'll probably be on chemotherapy for the rest of your life.
This is what a professional spoke to you, or someone else?
I had the nursing staff. I even met with the actual with the manager of the clinic. Everything. Some of my other cancer survivors and thrivers that were there were also like. I had an older lady. I'll never forget her. Every time I had treatment, she was there, and she would always come to me and just hug me and just say, "I'm so proud of you." But it was my very last one, my last chemo session, where at first I was very hesitant to even ring the bell because I never wanted to be insensitive to those who would never be able to do that. And her chair was empty, and I found out that she didn't make it. She had lost her battle with breast cancer the week before. And I didn't find out until after they told me to ring the bell. But her daughter was there getting some of her stuff and dropping off little gifts to people, and she had a handwritten note for me, and I still have it to this day, that just says, "I'm so proud of you, keep going."
Wow.
So if nothing else really solidified why I was going through it or what this journey entailed, that was just like another little message from God to me. Keep going, I have you covered. And like I tell people, my journey with this breast cancer wasn't because, I asked for it or anything. I was one that, because I was doing so much in church and so much with my children and so much in school and just doing so much for everybody else, I complained. I was like, God, I just need a break. I just need a break. I just need a day. And he gave me just what I said. But instead, I ended up having a cancer that would sit me down But strategically, he did it in the beginning of a pandemic because he knew, oh, I was still going to do this and do that and not sit still. And this literally set me down. I couldn't do anything. I got so sick at one point from chemo because my chemo, the treatment was very aggressive. I remember going for my first treatment, and probably 8 or 9 days after my first treatment, my hair started coming out.
How did that make you feel?
I think initially I just was in shock because they can't tell you that they guarantee your hair is going to come out. They tell you it's a possibility. But the fact that the possibility turned into my reality was just like, okay, it's trauma. It's a form. It definitely was a form, in some way, a form of trauma. And I thought I was doing something by getting. I had braids. What, Glennis? Why would you get braids? But again, not knowing. And then I remember one braid came out, and then I just started taking them out so slowly because I knew if that one came out, and it wasn't like when your hair come out, you still feel a little hair right there. No, it was skin. That was nothing but skin.
To your scalp.
Yep. And I was like, okay. So I started taking them out, and then I was like, okay, now what? And I didn't want to wait for it to just fall out. So my sister-in-law, Shawne, who has literally been by my side literally through the entire process, and even now, even after, she came, and I remember sitting in my living room, and she cut my hair in the living room. And even as traumatic as it was, I didn't react the way that I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to start crying and falling all out, and I didn't do any of that. But then I went to look in the mirror, and I was like, okay, this is hard. This is a lot. And then I started crying. But my son, Josiah, if you ever meet Josiah is we call him Little Bishop because Josiah, that is just who Josiah is, through and through. But Josiah says to me, Mommy, it's okay. You're still beautiful. And when I say I cried, I'm like, gosh, Josiah.
I'm crying now.
Like, wait. Like, Josiah. And I was just like, okay, I got this. And I felt liberated. I felt free. Even still dealing with this cancer, I still, internally, I was like, all of that was like dead weight. And then after a while, I got comfortable with literally being bald. I was like, I'm glad I got a little head. But, I mean, another close friend of mine, Brandy, she did a photo shoot and asked me to be in the photo shoot. And I was like, huh? And she had her own concept for what she wanted it to be. But it was so like liberating for me because she allowed me to just be me. And one of my scenes was just based around breast cancer. And my makeup was done, but I was bald. Like I had one picture where I put my wig on, but then I was like, all right, I'm hot, take this off, I'm good. And I took the majority of my other pictures with no wig. I mean, don't get me wrong, those that know, you know, I still had a wig, my hair was still done, because it took some time for me to really get used to it. And even now, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with my short hair. I've gone just a little bit shorter, and I promise, I'm perfectly fine with it, because now it kind of pushed me into really getting to know me under all of those layers, under the hair, under the keeping my nails done, and keeping up with yourself. But it really gave me the time to really get to know who Glennis is throughout all of this. I have people tell me all the time, like, I don't know how you did it. I'm like, literally, but you have to have a strong support system, because going through something like this by yourself can literally be a lot. And there are times that you can be the strongest one in the room, but you are the one that has the weight of the world literally on your shoulders while you're trying to be strong for everybody else. And this was the time where I couldn't be independent Glennis, because I just knew, okay, I know I can do this. I'll do it by myself. I don't ask for help. I don't really ask people to do things, because sometimes people take that and then throw it back in your face. Well, I helped you do this and I helped you get here. But I'm not that type. They'd be like, oh, I need help. I need you. I've always just do it. I'll figure it out some way by myself. But I didn't have a choice. I had to learn how to lean on other people to be there for me. A lot of those behaviors where I didn't want to ask for help, pride, I had to like literally put that to the side, because it's like, it's okay to be weak sometimes. It's okay to not be strong. That makes you human. Having the feeling like you gotta be strong, you gotta be tough. First of all, that's a defense mechanism, because you've been hurt so many times before that you've allowed yourself to build up this wall. Now, do I still probably have a wall? Sure, but it's not. You don't have to go through so much just to get to know me. And I was like, wow. My oldest son, Naeem, if nobody else was like my right-hand man, like, he was 12. And I'll never forget, he said, I don't want my mother to die. And the bad part about cancer, it has a negative connotation to it. But everybody believes that when you get sick or you have a illness or something of this to this matter, that you're gonna die. And that's not the case, because those of us who believe in God, not every sickness is unto death.
That's right.
And so I had to really hone in on that, like, Glennis, wait a minute. Just because you got cancer doesn't mean your life is over. This is the time where you really need to start living. Now, granted, I couldn't go out and about and be in the world because my immune system is compromised and we still have COVID, and I get sick. It's going to be worse than someone who doesn't have a compromised immune system. But, Glennis, each day you're able to open your eyes is a blessing, because there's some people who get diagnosed. You could get diagnosed this morning and won't even make it to the end of the day. And so I'm just like, okay, my son, even with him being 12 and not really understanding what's going on, but just knowing I don't want my mother to die, Naeem made sure if I needed something, he was there. My parents were like, I ain't never seen my parents that much at my house. If my mother wasn't there, my father was there. They made sure my kids were good. My sister-in-law. I have friends who, if I needed something, even if they couldn't physically get to me, they made sure I had it. They made sure they called. They made sure they checked in. My church family, my pastor. It's just a laundry list of people who I know out of genuine care and concern for me, even if that meant they just sent a message to say, hey, thinking about you, meant the world, because it felt like at one point the world was closing in on me. And even though, again, even as strong as I may have fought through this and made up in my mind that I wasn't going to just let it go, I had moments where I would cry silent tears and nobody knew I was crying. Nobody. Now, there was one time my children's father was at my house to check on them, make sure they were good, but he checked on me as well. And he said he came upstairs, I turned all the lights out in the room, and I was just crying, bawling, because I just couldn't get it together at that time. And he was like, I didn't say anything because I knew you needed that. I knew you needed to get that out, because I had been holding it in, because you don't want to cry all the time around your kids, because your kids, they knew something was wrong, but they don't know how to help you get through it. But just a little, mommy, it's okay. you're going to be okay was enough. My daughter used to say, when my mother would drop me off at treatments, my daughter said, you be good in the doctor's office. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, am I bad? Do I act up? I don't act up in there, but I know you love me. Okay, say no more. But this journey was just definitely one for the books, I will say. But I feel like, and I will tell people all the time, this journey for me, if I never heard God any clearer in my life ever, this was the time that I heard him clearly. I knew I wasn't going to die. He told me I wasn't going to die. But because I was stubborn, I got so, I'm not going to say big-headed, but I did allow, sometimes my pride kind of got in the way. Because I just was focused on everything else. He gave me the very things that I prayed for, the very things that I asked for. I was in them. I was doing them. But I lost sight of him. And he had to do something major, literally, to get my attention, to really focus back on him. Like, Glennis, you have these things because I gave them to you, not because you did anything. The things that come out of you are from me. You are a part of me. And if this is how you treat or are going to act with the things that I gave you, that shows me you're ungrateful. And I never want to be ungrateful, because it literally he's put me in positions that I never signed up for. Some things I never asked for. It just happened. And I was like, okay, oh, wait a minute. So I had to go back and reevaluate myself. Like, wait a minute. And God was like, Glennis, no. Why do you think I did it like I did it now? To give you cancer, and then also during the height of a pandemic? Because I knew you weren't going to sit down. You just complained about you need a break. You're so tired. Rest. And I had to learn how to rest. I didn't have a choice. It's not like I could get up, get in the car, and go driving anywhere. I couldn't do that. I barely could use my hands at one point. I would be so weak I couldn't do anything. I barely could eat food. I barely could eat. Life really did a complete change than what I was used to. And because I knew when God brought me out of it, I knew I had to change not only my life, but I had to exemplify what the life that he wanted for me, not more so what I wanted to do. Because now I'm doing things that I was like, God, you sure you want me to do it? Me. You know me. Like, you know me, so you sure about this? And so it really has changed the entire trajectory of my life. And for the better. I tell people all the time, even after dealing with chemo, even after having surgery, after surgery, after surgery, after surgery, this is the best that I've ever felt in my life.
Wow.
Ever. And do I cry about it? Sure. Because sometimes I still have some after effects from chemo.
Okay.
So I never had the problem or the issue of expressing myself. But I could be pointing to something, and I know I'm trying to tell you that's what I want. But sometimes my brain and my speech are not on the same page. Sometimes there's a slight delay. Sometimes I could be trying to say, I'm trying to get it out, and it is frustrating sometimes. But sometimes I've learned to just stop, take a breath, and then just try it again. It's okay. Every now and again, I still suffer from chemo brain. I know what I'm trying to say, and then as soon as I try to tell you, I forget.
So that's what you call chemo brain?
Sometimes my balance is off. I could be walking, and sometimes just like that, my leg will go out, or my balance, I'll stumble or something. But it's not it's not as bad as it was immediately, like coming out of chemo, but every now and again it still happens. But that's just one of the sometimes the long lasting effects from chemo.
Can I ask you what your average day of chemo was? You got dropped off.
So I would go, COVID? Yeah. So I would go. I would try to do the morning. I would rather do the morning the earliest. If I was like the very first, I would rather go super early in the morning, so that way when I came home, I still had the rest of the day to just like relax. But I would go as early as 7, I believe like 7:30. Some days I would leave about 3 o'clock. So it was like I'm running a time frame of like a typical work day. Mm-hmm. But I would go every 21 days for chemo. And on the days that I would have chemo, the following week I would come back for hydration. So I would still have to come back to be hydrated. They would check my blood levels just to make sure I didn't have any infection, or they didn't see an infection coming, or make sure my iron was at my potassium was at a good level. But because I was limited on what I could eat, I think my potassium was the most difficult to try to keep regulated, because I can't eat bananas. I'm allergic to them, so I can't eat them. Mm. But even back then, I could only really eat like baked chicken, rice, and string beans, and drink water. I couldn't drink soda. Couldn't do juice, couldn't do no sugar, none of that, because it literally made me sick. Couldn't eat beef because it would make me sick. Stuff that I used to enjoy, I couldn't eat at all. I had no desire. Did you lose your taste? So I didn't lose my taste. If anything, it was more enhanced. Like certain things would make me sick just by how it smelled. I did taste metal a lot because of the chemo, so a lot of stuff had like a metal taste to it. But honestly, that's really the only thing. And because I could only really drink water is why that is something that I've really just continued to drink now, even after.
Your journey is amazing, and I'm proud of you. I really am proud of you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. The timing at which your diagnosis came, you said that was 2020. You walked across the stage with your bachelor degree in what year?
And that was 2021. I came out May 2021 and went right back August 2021 and graduated again with my master's in social work in 2022.
Didn't stop. You just kept it moving.
Kept going.
And that is so motivating and inspiring. So there are all like misconceptions to the illness. If I had to ask you things that you would have preferred people not to say, would there have been anything?
The only one that I would say is I'm sorry. And I know people don't mean it negatively. Sometimes people just don't know what to say, so and first thought is, I'm so sorry. And I'd be like, I don't know why you're sorry, because it's not like you just like, whoop, there you go, there's cancer. But that would probably be, that probably would be my only thing is, I would have really preferred people not to be like, I'm sorry. Only because it does feel a little insensitive. But again, some people just don't know what to say, so that'd be like the first thing that they go to. But other than that, I don't think I really paid too much attention to anything else. I think that only I'm so sorry is the only thing that kind of like got my ears like, okay, don't be sorry. It's all right. It really is. And I mean, and again, like when people would say it, they would say it with tears in their eyes, because again, nobody ever prepares to have cancer. Like this isn't something that you just know without a shadow of a doubt that you're gonna get. But I'm just like, it's okay. I think my response always has been, don't be sorry. It's okay. I'm okay. I'm fighting it. I'm dealing with it. But that's it. It literally comes down to not just having cancer, just life in general. Sometimes life is gonna get hard. That's inevitable. Life is just going life. But it's the way that you approach it. It's the way that you talk about it. And one thing big for me was don't get me wrong, I had my moment where I was like, God, why me? I felt like, what did I do that was so wrong? Like I went through that moment. If I'm being honest, like as transparent as I can be, I went through that. But then it was like, Glennis, no. You literally have to speak to those things in your life that feel like life is at its end. It's the worst, as if, no, not why me. I'm gonna get through it. Like you have to, like you really, that whole speak those things that are not as though they are is real. And regardless of what that outcome looked like, I didn't know that the outcome, was gonna be, I was gonna beat it and still be thriving. But you really gotta speak to it. I had to speak to it like, no, I am gonna get through this. Because when you speak positively over a negative situation, your outcome, I can almost guarantee, is always going to be positive. Now, it may not look like, your positive may not look like what God's positive outline is for you. But at the end, you still get victory in some way. And not only that do you get victory out of it, but he still gets victory and he gets the glory in all of it. So that's why for me, I had to keep talking to her like, today I don't feel like it. I'm tired, but I still got to go to chemo. I still got to fight. I still got to do it. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, you're so resilient and you fought, your children are looking, people are watching. They are. But my fight wasn't for them. My fight, are they going to reap the benefits of my fight, of me winning it? Sure. But that fight, that was a journey that God ordained for me. Like I had to fight that. Not only was I fighting that cancer by itself, I was fighting demons that I had within me that I didn't even know were there, because I had put them so far, buried them so far in the back of my mind. They didn't even exist to me. But so much was revealed about Glennis that were parts of me that I didn't like, parts of me that I just kind of tucked away because I didn't want the world to see it or anybody else to see it. But when God literally stripped me bare, and I'll even use me losing my hair as the example. Head full of hair, but you're weighted down, and when he removed that, so did anxiety, so did depression, so did self-sabotage, so did me standing in the way of me from progressing. All of that dead weight, me not even, if I'm being honest, me not even liking me, not loving me the way that I need to be loved by me, looking for love from everybody else and every other thing. But where is your love for yourself? I learned so much about me. The layers that I had to me, once I accepted what was going on, and when I accepted, not only did I accept it in the physical, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, when I really accepted it all, those layers, I started healing. Yeah, the chemo did what it was supposed to do. Yeah, the doctors did what God positioned them to do. Yeah, they did. But this was a healing process for me, to heal me of things that I felt like were past failures, or I didn't meet the mark, or I wasn't living up to the expectation of myself, not even the expectation of other people anymore. It wasn't even about nobody else. This was literally a God moment for me. So yeah, it hurt. And it hurts when you have to deal with the ugly truth. But the beauty of it all is who you become when you deal with that ugly truth. And now you're living in it. And now you're thriving and you're progressing and you're really showing other people that it is possible. You may have done some of the worst things ever in life, but there is still better on the other side. You just gotta want to do it for yourself
first.
You can't want, everybody else can't want it for you. Everybody else can't want Glennis to heal and Glennis to come out of it. Yeah, they may have wanted it, but it was for me. Glennis, do you want to live, or are you gonna die in this? Now, God told you weren't gonna die, so I wasn't gonna die in the physical. But are you gonna die to anxiety? Are you gonna die to being depressed because just this didn't go right, or that didn't go right, or life as you saw it wasn't the way that you thought it was supposed to go because you saw everybody else and what everybody else was doing? Why am I not where everybody else is? Well, first, Glennis, you're not that person. You don't know what they had to deal with. So trying to put you up with what everybody else is doing, it's not gonna match. It's like a puzzle. That piece doesn't go in that spot. You have to manually do it. You gotta do the work. And I didn't have a choice. And even now, to this day, I'm still doing the work. I'm still not where I feel like God wants me to be, but I'm so much further than where I used to be.
But you are also amazing.
Thank you.
You really are amazing. And there's so many takeaways from everything that you talked about. One thing, which is very important, and that is self-examinations. Did you do self-examinations before you bumped into your lump?
So to be honest, no, I didn't. If there was a self-examination done, it was because I had went to either my primary care doctor because it was time for a physical, or even when I went to my OBGYN. But prior to me just randomly bumping into it, no, I didn't, because I was ignorant to the fact that this was a possibility for me because of my age. Because it's recommended at 40. You don't hear about it until you're 40. So again, it was being not me not being proactive, but more so now I had to be reactive because now there's an issue. It's like you don't have a choice. But I strongly recommend women to, and not even just women, because men, there is a possibility.
1 out of every 100 man is affected also.
And then even down to being an African American woman, 1 out of every 2,100 African American women the age of 30 will get breast cancer in their life. So the age doesn't matter.
Do you think healthcare matters? Because it sounds like you have the best healthcare.
Most definitely. So I'll say this, and also with women, especially these young girls. Please do your reading on birth control, because the type of cancer that I have, I produced way too much estrogen, but I was also on birth control. I was also on Depo, and everybody thinks Depo, oh, that's just the greatest thing because it stops your menstrual, but how much estrogen are you producing? Too much can trigger cancer. And they're not going to tell you that. But again, you don't know because it's not, that kind of information is not always provided.
You got to look for it.
You have to do, you have to do your due diligence and read the fine print. A lot of this medicine and stuff we pump into us, we take just by the opinion or the recommendation of who our, healthcare providers are. But you gotta read, because I wholeheartedly feel that my cancer was triggered because I was on birth control. I never knew that I produced way too much estrogen. Never knew it until I was diagnosed.
Wow. So you gave people a lot to think about. Short of the things that you mentioned, are there any other pieces of advice that you would give someone that maybe was diagnosed today with breast cancer? Is there something that you wish someone would have told you outside of what you already said?
I don't think there's something that I wish somebody would have told me, because again, I was fortunate enough to have a very strong and very solid support system. And because I had family and church and just different people in my corner, now there's so many breast cancer groups that you can be a part of, breast cancer communities that you can really partake in, that they really are very, I would say very informative, very supportive. Even if you're unsure and you don't really have anybody in your corner, reach out to those types of groups, because there are people who are willing to be there for you. Had I not gone through it during the pandemic, is one group I was a part of, I'm pretty sure if I would have said in there that I need someone to be there with me, I can almost guarantee that one of those ladies would have been there. There are times where I've seen in different states, there have been people who travel just to go be at your side, because everybody needs somebody, especially when you go through something so life-changing. Having a very strong supportive system, whether it's one person, whether it's 1,000 people, having somebody to help you navigate through it all, definitely is something that helps. But understand, it is going to be okay. It is okay. And it's okay to be upset. I tell people, don't negate the negative feelings behind it, because at the end of the day, you're still human. So it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to cry, scream, yell, do all of that, but just don't stay there. Because the longer you stay there, the harder it is to get out of it. Journal. That's what I did. When there were times where I was having emotions that I couldn't even verbally say to others, not because I just couldn't talk. Sometimes you just can't find the words. Sometimes it just comes out in tears. Journal. Because when it's all said and done, and you go back and look at where you were to where you are, you get so much joy out of that. I look back at some of my entries and was like, yeah, this was this day. I remember, and I can remember where I was. I can even tell you down to if something caught my attention, like a scent or something, and I remember exactly where I was and remember how I felt compared to what I feel now.
Wow.
There's literally so much. I get so much solace in knowing, like, Glennis, you really did that. And the amount of people who will pour into you. You'll get people from God knows where who will see your progression. Even if that means, all you did today was just sit up rather than lay down in the bed.
That's progress.
That's progress. And we take the little things for granted. Like being able to just, first of all, be in our own bed. There are people who've gone through this and don't even have their own. But we take for granted being able to just lift our hands, being able to just talk, being able to do things on our own. I went through a phase where I wasn't able to do any of that. I had to have help. I had to have my son help me. I had to have my son open my medication. I had to have my mother help me, my father help me. We take the little things for granted. Just being able to have the ability to do. People take for granted. Life literally can change. I never would have thought that on February 16th, when I went to sleep, that on February 17th, I was going to find a lump. And that on February 26th, it was going to come back as cancer. So I'm learning now to just live. Live in the moment, not live for nobody else. Because ultimately, like, my kids are an extension of me. If I'm living, they gonna live too. So it's not like, oh, I'm just doing this for them. I'm doing this for them. What about you? Don't ever forget yourself in any situation, because ultimately you are the one that has to deal with all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. Everybody else feels the after effect from it. But you are the one that has to go. You have to go through it. Go through it, because you never know how it's building you, it's molding you and shaping you. What it's doing, what you're doing. Somebody's watching you. I still feel like that to this day. I don't know who, but I know somebody is watching me. Somebody is literally being able to get out of a situation or to handle a situation or go through a situation, but watching me.
You're right.
So I'm just like, whoever you are, hope you're good.
They are, because you are, right? So you talked about journaling. Is that how you started writing your book?
So that's where it came from. Just the day-to-day journaling of my journey. I looked at it and was like, I could probably turn this into a book. I mean, I've always written. It's always been a hobby of mine since I was younger. But I was always trying to figure out, like, what to do with it. How do I want to spin it? But that's part of where it came to write my book. I've had quite a few life experiences that have prompted me to want to write. And so I kind of just take all of it. I've taken bits and pieces from different experiences that I've had to put it all together. I'm excited. I used to be like, I don't know, because I see other people and I don't know if I'm gonna get the same response. But when I got out of that, like, I'm not even worried about that. It's necessary. It's a need for it. It's a need for it. I don't know what the need is, but I know there's a need for what I have to say and how I need to put it together. So I'm excited I'm excited for this book.
I'm excited too.
Even now, even still talking about it, the wheels are turning. So I'm excited to really get it out there, and just to knock this off my checklist.
When do you anticipate the release?
Spring 2024.
Okay.
Like, I'm holding my own self to the fire. I've had people before, like, Glennis, you need to put your book out. It's coming. Trust me.
Okay.
It's well worth the wait. I promise.
I'm excited. I can't wait to read it. You also mentor, right?
I do. I have a love for mentoring females, young girls. And the funny thing is, I never would have thought that I take so much to teenagers. Never would have thought it. I have a teenager myself, but ooh, I remember what it was like when I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. Okay. Don't do that. But especially ages 12 to 16. Well, 17, because I remember what it was like for me in them ages. And I remember what my relationship was like with my sister, God rest her soul. But I remember what my relationship was like with her. Even though we were up and down sometimes, we were at each other's necks, but that's what sisters do. I remember conversations, like the words of inspiration and guidance she used to give me. And even though I may not have been listening all the time, I heard her. I just wanted to do my own thing, because Glennis was hard-headed. So glad I'm not like that no more. 100%. But yeah, I take to ages 12 to 17 because I really do feel like those are the most pivotal times in not only a young lady's life, but in young males' lives as well. And those are the ages where you are shaped and guided and molded. And so I just, first of all, I miss my kids at my previous school because I had them. I was with middle school. I missed them, but the responses I get even now, the emails I get now from them, from their parents, just by little stuff that I say, little things that I used to do. When children know that you genuinely care for them, they'll tell you anything you want to know.
Absolutely.
They'll open up like a can of worms. And to this day, they still email me, especially my boys. I don't know what it is. I like the boys. I love the girls too, I promise. But it's something about being able to really genuinely just pour love into them, because I think that's really what this generation is missing.
You have it, and it's pouring off. I can feel it. It's all in this room. So you're just starting your journey, and I'm excited to see where you're going with it. I really appreciate you coming by and spending time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Sharing your story. And I have to say it one more time. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You are an inspiration to not me only, but a lot of people that are watching.
I'm just here to serve. That's all.
Ultimately, that's the end game, right?
That's where my heart is. As long as it's not, for me, it's not about accolades or recognition or money or any of that. I'm just glad to be a part and just to pour out love. The love that I get, I give it right back.
Amen. Amen.
Hi, friends. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe, follow, like, and share. You can also find out more about us, the Hidden Parts Podcast, as well as watch this recording and many others at my website, www.the-inner.me. Bye.